I'm here tonight to represent Consumer Advocates, which is one of a few advocacy companies that's established in Christchurch to represent the consumers' rights. The majority of people, or everyone here, has an interest obviously in the Brooklands area or has an interest in property, and have now found yourselves in a battle where you're having to deal with insurance companies and government and EQC and these different entities, which, as Andrew will refer to, is probably one of the worst battles you could probably ever put yourself in a position to have to deal with. When we brought Consumer Advocates into Christchurch to deal with the issues here on behalf of people, we'd recognised initially obviously three main market sectors that needed addressing, and that was the green zone under cap, the green zone over cap, and the red zone. And I'm not going to talk too much about all of those areas because the focus for you people tonight is mostly red zone, and I'm sure you mostly want to hear from Andrew because he's got a lot of the answers to questions that I'm sure people have got. The green zone undercap, very quickly though, was to protect homeowners, to make sure that their repairs were being done in a proper building, methods were being used, that all of the damage that was evident was being repaired, and that the homeowners' rights were being protected. The green zone overcap, very much the same, but of course dealing with the insurance company on those issues. And then the red zone, which we're going to talk a bit about shortly. What's happened though is that we've had a fourth market segment unfortunately come to us, which is people who have already been repaired and have got some real issues with the repairs that have been done. And that, unfortunately, unless something changes soon, is going to be a growing segment of the market, sadly. My background in advocacy is about 10 years, and that was mostly in Wellington, where I established the first residential property advocacy for people buying residential property. The issue I recognised was that there was a conflict of interest because most people, when they purchased a residential property, relied on the real estate agent to guide them, and of course the real estate agent was paid by the vendor. And so I set up an advocacy to help people and to slot in between them and the real estate agent. And in a very short period of time, I was without a doubt the most unpopular person in real estate circles in the whole of the Wellington area. Real estate companies made policy which banned their sales agents and dealing with any form of advocate for the buyer, and it really had quite a significant impact on the local market. So I feel that that's a great accolade. What that taught me though, and what I know, is that we were very much process driven, and what you people in the red zone or wherever you are have to understand is that in order to get a resolution, that you need to have a process. And if you don't understand the processes and the thinking of the people that you're having to deal with, then it makes it very difficult to establish a process that's going to provide you with a solution that fulfills your rights. One of the things we do as a consumer advocate, which is very important, is we want to spend time with you and understand your objective and your goal, because the process that then is established to get you to your objective and goal needs to be relevant. You know, we've already heard about some people who have settled and they've moved on, and that's because maybe they've been able to get their goal. Maybe they've had enough, who knows, but they've decided that that's enough money for me and I'm gone, which is fine. For a lot of people, they're still left in confusion. There's a lack of trust and there's a lack of transparency. The issues that we're dealing with, and especially in the red zone, is the issues are multi-dimensional. So everyone here is having to deal with property issues relating to earthquakes. So let's put 10,000 earthquakes into one box and say, well, that's what's caused the damage to our land or our property. But you would think that's relatively two-dimensional, but I can tell you that every person in here has a different scenario because their individual desire, their individual position, their individual financial position, their individual goal is different. And so as much as we're all affected by this one event, our individual situation is different. And as a community, it's fantastic to see everyone together. But what we need to understand is we need to be understanding, and I'm sure you are, of the other people in the community. And Ollie's sort of touched on that some people will say, we just want to move. Some people will say, no, we're staying here. And some people will have another thing that they want to do. And everyone is right, and everyone has their rights. And so as a consumer advocate, we believe that it's important to understand what you want to achieve and then make sure that ideally that you can achieve it, but you get your full value, your full rights. And a big part of that is our process and then information and transparency. And I'm sure that everywhere I go, they're the two big things that people really, really struggle with the parties they're dealing with. Is not the transparency, the information's not forthcoming. It's my house. Why is that secret? Why can't I have that? So when we go into bat for you, they're two of the main things that we're wanting to provide for you. The thing about consumer advocates is that I could never do everything for everyone here or anyone here on my own. So what I've done is I've pulled together quite a large team of people that are experts in their field, and they're qualified accordingly, and we're going to hear from Andrew, who's obviously one of the legal advisors that we have available. But the important thing about this team is that their focus and their perspective is from a consumer point of view. At the moment, everyone's dealing with insurance companies or whoever, and they're coming from their point of view. And I want you to imagine this, that if your situation when it comes to the value of your property is a glass of water and it's full, and I can tell you that's the insurance company's maximum position. That's the best you could ever hope to get. They will never tell you what that means, how many litres or anything, right? But what they will do in the part of the scenario that we're in now, because people like Andrew have seen it around the world, is their focus and their motivation is to get you to settle for as little of that as possible. And what a lot of people don't realise is, and when we come to talking about values of property and assets, there is a very big margin of discretion. Plus or minus 30% has been seen to be an acceptable margin of discretion. So if your dwelling is worth 300,000 in the middle, someone might say 210 and someone else will say 390. That's the amount of scale. And the insurance companies, as Ollie's pointed out, they have people that work these figures all the time. They know these figures, and if I can assure you, if they can get you at 210 with a smile on their face and a bottle of wine or whatever, that's where they want to be. There's not many people and companies that are there to go into bat for the consumer. And there's a couple of good reasons. It's not a very popular thing to do. There's a lot of money and clout on the other side that want to quieten down the voice of the consumer. I mean, you know that as a group. They don't want to necessarily listen. So it's not a particularly easy role, but it's something that we're passionate about. We have a commercial responsibility, but we believe more importantly we have a social responsibility. We, as I said to Ollie, 10% of what we do, we have to be commercially responsible as a company, we have people to pay, but we are 90% responsible socially for people, because this is your biggest asset in most cases. This is your livelihood. For some people, this is the house they grew up in because it was their folks' house, This is big stuff. And so, and that's why I'm quite passionate about, what we're doing here. I've got interests outside of the country, in Hong Kong and in Europe, and I could be anywhere in the world doing business. I was born and bred in Christchurch, and I'm passionate about Christchurch. And my father is unwell, but I've chosen to be here because I believe that there's a real need. Part of what we want to do for consumer advocates is to come into the Brooklands community on a regular basis. I haven't discussed with Ollie, but maybe in another 4 or 6 weeks, and bring with us more experienced, qualified people that you can hear from and learn from, because our commitment's to your community as well. If as a result of that, we achieve some business, well, we are thankful for that, and we love to help people. But we're not here necessarily to sell our wares. We're here to help the community, and we believe by faith that our business will flourish as a result.